Welcome back into the Fourth Man podcast. Glad you guys could all join us today. We appreciate everyone who's tuning in. As always, I'm Anthony, and alongside the best Big 3 news account, Big 3 News, aka Will, back with another episode. Will, how's the week going? We're almost here till the Christmas season.
I know it is the Christmas season. I see your hat says volunteer on it. Have you been getting in some charity work?
Yeah. Let's go with that. Yeah.
All right, well that's great. I'm glad to see you're getting in the spirit.
100%. Yeah, we got a great show for you coming up. A great interview as always on the back end here. Not a lot of news, but just want to kind of go through a recent post here from the Big 3. But before we do that, if you want to find the show as always on any of our social media pages, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, etc., it's at Fourth Man Pod, at Big 3 News, and at @A_Siggy. Don't forget, you can also watch the podcast now on YouTube. It's just youtube.com/fourthman. Make sure to subscribe and please leave feedback because we love to hear what we're doing right, but also what we're doing wrong, what we could improve, etc. And as always, for those tuning in on Saturday here on Dash Radio on the Nothing But Net channel, whether it's your first time or you're a repeat listener, we appreciate you guys as always for just continuing to listen on Dash Radio, and we appreciate those guys, Nothing But Net guys, for giving us a platform to continue to try to bring Big 3 news on. No pun intended there. All right. Before we get into the interview on the back half, Will, let's go through this and dive into this post a little bit, kind of like we did a couple episodes ago where the Big 3 posted, who would you want to see in the Big 3? And they gave a couple of guys, Jared Jack, Kyle Korver, Joakim Noah, Jimmer Fredette, Monte Ellis. Say the big one that stands out, though, is J. Cole, rapper, producer, artist.
J. Cole, Jermaine.
Yeah. What are your thoughts after you see the Big 3 post that? Like, who would you be the most excited about?
Fun fact about J. Cole. J. Cole went to St. John's University in Queens, and he didn't graduate because he didn't pay back dues that he owed on a rented textbook. So he did not.
Oh, is that why he didn't go back? I know he was. Did he try out for the team there at St. John's, or did he?
That's possible. I don't know.
He might have maybe played on the team for a little bit. I don't know. That is a fun fact.
I believe they have since given him an honorary degree, but I do know that he did not receive his diploma because he did not pay back textbook rentals or like.
I wouldn't have accepted that.
Like I wouldn't have accepted. Oh my god, I would have been causing havoc.
Kind of a slap in the face. Oh, sorry, we messed up here. We didn't give you your diploma. Oh, we see you're successful now, though. You think you can, rep your college, be an honorary alum here?
Red Storm. Yeah. Oh my god, ridiculous. No, but I mean the Big 3. Listen, we've been talking about this, a couple of times. Where is a legitimate possibility, and again, I find it so funny that he made that song about. What did he say? He's like, there's only a couple spots on the Pistons, you know what I mean? And really such like the deep meaning to that song and like society and all like the different traps of society. Mm-hmm. And then he's shooting a couple jump shots in the gym and the Pistons like, yeah, like if you want this spot, you can have it.
Yeah, come on, please.
Like, I don't think you guys listen to the song. I don't think you guys understand the meaning behind it.
Social media team definitely got fired after that one.
No, but I mean, honestly, the good thing about the Big 3, and we've seen this with Terrell Owens, is that if you're one of the, top guys, how many people get drafted, right? What is it, like 30, right? Because there's 10 teams,
at this
right?
point.
Yeah, so 30 people get drafted?
Around there.
Around there, right? 36? Are there 12 teams? God,
well, I'm just thinking because, the runner-up will get one pick. So it's kind of an offset amount. But
yeah, so it's like, let's say 30 picks. If you're one of the top 30 guys and you're going to get drafted, so if J. Cole is one of the top 30 guys, then, why not, right?
Mm-hmm. And I think that third round is kind of that flyer round,
Yes, absolutely. And we've seen a lot of gems in that third round. We've almost seen more gems from the third round in the first round.
Yeah. But, I would agree.
So I don't know. Is J. Cole, I think the biggest hurdle to this is, does J. Cole have the time to do this? I don't know. That part I couldn't tell you. But if he does, why not? It's open tryouts.
Yeah, and he's been hooping kind of with some of those big NBA players, and they're a little closed off court there. We've seen him move a little bit, or at least I've seen it through social media and stuff. So would be interesting. I'm thinking at this point, because I feel like I want to say the two biggest names outside of guys that play professionally overseas or play professionally in the NBA. The two big names that I've seen that would have to come in and try out because they don't have any NBA or professional experience would be probably J. Cole and Terrell Owens, right? Is that probably who we're
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Those would be the two. I mean, Kyle Rudolph has sort of joked about joining, or he sort of like
yeah.
teased it, so that would be really fun to see.
Josh
I mean,
McCown
who else?
followed
I mean,
you, so
right, that's true. That's the other one, right? Josh McCown. Josh McCown really wants to play too. So I think those guys. I mean, do you tell Josh McCown? Do you tell one of the greatest journeyman quarterbacks of all time that he's got to go to the open tryouts? I don't know. I don't know if you
do you
can
tell
do
any
that.
of those guys that? I mean,
I don't know if you can. I mean, Ice Cube told Terrell Owens if you bring a team, then you're in, which we're still trying to figure out what that means. But so I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see what this process looks like. But again, I think the good thing about the Big Three is there's much less politics involved than maybe the NBA or the G
mhm.
League or that we're seeing. So listen, if you can play, then you can play.
100%. Yeah, it's not like this is a very cliche term in the Big Three at this point, but it's not about your name; it's about your game. So I mean,
That's true, and that works both ways, right? It's
mm-hmm.
not about how big your name is, but also not about how small your name is or how unknown you are.
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So let's now talk about some guys that we know who can play.
100%. So there's a lot of guys listed on here: current players, recently retired players, even one that we're not sure if we know the player. Uh,
Yeah, we're trying to figure it out.
Still trying to figure out, is that Marvin Williams from the Bucks last year, or
We think
it's
it's
very
Marvin
small.
Williams.
So Marvin
Probably.
Williams,
Yeah.
question mark on there. Jarrett Jack, Leandro Barbosa, Joakim Noah, Jimmer Fredette, Monte Ellis, Kyle Korver. Okay, I'm just gonna say something here. I've been a big advocate for like Monte Ellis coming to the league. That's
You
someone
have been. You have been.
I've been dying to see. I
Mhm.
thought maybe we were getting closer when him and Amari Stoudemire. There were rumors about them getting workouts with NBA teams last year when Amari was playing with Tri-State and Monte Ellis was not sure what he's doing, I guess training and stuff. But I feel like Monte Ellis would be a perfect fit in this league. I think it's someone that could definitely take that Joe Johnson route. I almost feel like at this point in his career, it's like, okay, we know what Monte Ellis can do. We understand what he's brought to the teams and how he's been valuable, but we just haven't seen it in a while. We haven't seen him play in a couple of years. So maybe just getting him on the stage and allowing him to be himself, and in the process, helping the Big Three grow or get some more eyes to the Big Three, and also potentially winning a championship. A professional Big Three championship, I think could be cool in the process. So I think out of these names, I think Monte Ellis is the big one that stands out for me.
Okay, that's interesting. I wouldn't say that Monte Ellis is the one that stands out for me, but I almost would say out of all of these lists of people, I think he's the most likely. I
Fair
don't know if
point.
I would, I would almost equate him to, in terms of likelihood, like a Zach Randolph, right? Sort of someone
Mm-hmm.
who we speculated and we were like, oh, I think this could happen. The connections are there, guys know him, and then it happened, and we were like, our suspicions were confirmed in a way. So I could see a very similar thing happening with Monte Ellis. He's been someone who's been talked about. I think Cube even name dropped him a couple of times. So I think he would be. I think it would be almost. It would make sense if he's one of the bigger additions
Right.
that we
Right.
this offseason. He would be, I would say, a very realistic.
Sure.
guy.
Maybe that's a good way to put it. The most realistic.
Yeah.
And in terms of interesting, though, which one do you feel like is most interesting? Because you don't necessarily agree with my Monte Ellis take. I think maybe the most interesting one, and that's just because he's still playing, is Kyle Korver.
Yeah, I think Kyle Korver is interesting too. We can absolutely get into Kyle Korver, but to answer your first question, I think we're looking at a potential MVP in this graphic. I think Joakim Noah would absolutely dominate in this league. I mean, he reminds me very much of Joe Johnson. He was somebody who came in, who was good in the league, played very recently. Let's say he does decide to join. He's coming off of an NBA season. Joe Johnson was coming off of an NBA season where Joe Johnson played a similar role for I believe his last team was the Rockets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Remember that correctly?
Yeah.
A very similar role in the Rockets to what Joakim Noah played on the Clippers. And Joakim Noah, he played on the Clippers. He was an NBA player. You know what I mean? I don't think Joakim Noah stood out. And anyone said, "Oh, Joakim Noah doesn't belong here," you know.
Yeah.
And before the Clippers, when he had a little bit more of a bigger role, he was very solid on the Grizzlies, you know. And I don't think people talk about enough that Joakim Noah almost won MVP. You know,
When he was with the Bulls, yeah.
when he was with the Bulls, like he almost legitimately won MVP the season Derrick Rose got hurt. And I think that his play style would be fantastic in this league. You know, he's a physical guy. He gets boards, and he's also a fantastic scorer. You know, and he
Yeah.
has a bit of an outside shot. So I think if Joakim Noah joined this league, he may not be the flashiest name. He may not immediately draw the most eyes, but like Joe Johnson, I think he would quickly become he's a guy that you can, I would say, plug on any team. And me personally, I would make them a championship contender.
It's a bold take there. So
I'm willing to ride with that.
So here's my outlook on Joakim Noah, because all those things you said about him aren't true. Outside of like him being like a great scorer, like I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I mean,
Okay.
he definitely has he definitely did his part when he's with the Bulls. He could put up, triple doubles here and there. But here's how I look at Joakim Noah being added to the league. I look at him more like and I don't want this to be taken as an insult, but I look at him more of him playing more of that Chris Anderson role.
Okay.
Someone who I think is going to win Defensive Player of the Year, someone who I think if you put on the right team, he's definitely going to contribute to a championship. But am I excited about like watching Joakim Noah play? And maybe this is just my own opinion. I mean, I'm a guy who likes James Harden, who the reason if people do like watching him is because he's a bucket getter. I'm a guy who likes to see someone get buckets. Someone who's gonna score a bunch of points rather than just make the most impact on a game.
I can say with confidence that as a James Harden fan that you are, Joakim Noah may be the opposite of a James Harden. He may
exactly
be like the polar opposite of what James Harden is.
100%. And that's why I think maybe Monte Ellis gravitates toward me a little bit more, because he maybe has that similar mold of like, yeah, you're going to insert him on a team and he's going to score you a lot of points. He's going to be kind of that microwave scorer for you. Whereas Joakim Noah, I think, is going to contribute. And I think he can, be one of the top players in the league for sure. I think if he comes to the Big Three, he would automatically be at least a co-captain, if anything. But his impact while he was playing with the Clippers, he had a decent year with the Grizzlies, like way better than I thought he would. I just wonder what the impact would be like on a Big Three season, like on a Big Three team. And that's just my take.
That's a fair point.
But I do think he would, no doubt about it. I think he'd come in and you'd have to put him into the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. I mean, like you said, something about a player coming right to the Big Three after being in the NBA, as briefly as the year before. I mean, that's got to hold some kind of, just level of degree for a player.
No less.
Yeah.
Championship contender, no less, playing, valuable NBA playoff minutes, 110%. I mean, it's funny you say that. It's now that you say that, you like Harden and Ellis, I get why you wouldn't like Noah. And as someone from me who, shed a tear when I found out that the Grizzlies were retiring Tony Allen's number, just based off of defense alone. I absolutely can now see why I would be excited about Joakim Noah. No, but definitely it'll be interesting to see, and I really hope that for the reasons that we laid out, it would be really exciting to see him in the league. But no, for Kyle Korver, so I guess let's do him next. Kyle Korver is interesting, right? Because I think, is he still on the Bucks? I don't know.
Maybe he's not on the Bucks. Maybe I just like have that ingrained in my head. Did he not?
But he is, yeah.
Did he not re-sign with them, or?
I don't think he did.
Okay, maybe he did.
I went because I made a post about Kyle Korver recently, and I think I looked, and he was a unrestricted free agent. But another thing that I looked when I was looking for YouTube videos of Kyle Korver is just how well respected he is by everyone, especially during his time in Cleveland with LeBron.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to see if I can find the what was it? The press conference of when LeBron was like, remember they were like, would you do anything different in that situation? And he was like, and he gave like some long convoluted answer, and then he was like, and then in the end, I'd pass it to Kyle Korver. You know what I mean? Like, times out of 10. You know what I mean? And that like made the ways around. So I think I just typed in like Kyle Korver, LeBron James press conference. He has like 20 of those. Like local media of him just being like, I'm so happy Kyle Korver's on this team. I'm so happy Kyle Korver's on this team. Like,
wow.
And I don't know if I've ever seen LeBron that and again, I'm not someone who follows LeBron, and again, this was all local Cavs media, but I don't know if I've ever seen LeBron that publicly supportive of a teammate, besides obviously like a Dwayne Wade,
There's very few, let's put it that way,
Yeah.
even if he has.
So I think Kyle Korver, it's interesting, right? So when I made the post about Kyle Korver, I said, do you think he'd be good in the Big 3? And a lot of people said, he's a pure shooter. I don't know how good that is in a 3v3, which in my opinion, I can't debate that. You're 100% right. We've seen guys who are quote unquote pure shooters and they get exposed a little bit because all they do is they just send somebody out to guard him at the 3-point line and then it's a 2v2. But I think Kyle Korver is just so intelligent. He's so basketball smart that I think he would be able to work around that.
Yeah, I like that. And I think, too, the thing that we've really noticed about the Big 3, and I know it's been a while, but I want to say the thing that we've noticed since season 2 is that people are starting to have a little bit of a strategy. I would say more so a strategy to how they're utilizing their players and just being on the court. I mean, okay, Kyle Korver, he's not best in a 3-on-3 setting. What if he's just coming off the bench in tight situations? What if your team is down 47-39? You're like, okay, we could really use a 4, maybe 2.
Mm-hmm.
Let's put him in the game, and we'll figure out the other side because Kyle Korver. I mean, while he's a pure shooter, we have to remember his days in Atlanta. I mean, he was a respectable defender at some points. That whole team was. I mean, that was a very group effort here. So
that whole team that won All-Star, right? Was that entire team an All-Star?
It was 4 of them.
The top 5? Yeah.
Yeah, it was all 4 of them except for DeMar Carroll.
Right.
So, yeah, he was a well-respected defender on that team. I mean, obviously 5-on-5 is a little bit different on 3-on-3 when it comes to defense, and maybe his defense was accounted for on the back end. But I don't know. I feel like even if you have him on a team, you can bring him into situations where it's well needed and utilize him in that aspect. I mean, I'm even thinking of like when a team is up 24-21 or something, and you're like, the team that has 21 brings in Korver, and it's like, okay, we just need to get to the half. Yeah, we just need to get to the half before they do.
It's funny, and this sort of just popped into my head. This might be just a sign of how big the league has grown, but I think Korver might be the first NBA All-Star that I would say I wouldn't jump ahead and make him a captain.
Man, that's pretty crazy. But yeah, I would have to.
I don't know of anyone off the top of my head. I could be wrong. There's been a ton of guys who have been in the NBA and been in the Big 3, but off the top of my head, I don't know if anyone that recently made an All-Star game that I think would be available in the Big 3 draft, or at least in my opinion, would probably be in the Big 3 draft as opposed to a captain, which I could see him being a captain, but.
Why don't you see him being a captain?
Because I think for all the reasons that you just said, I don't know if,
a high usage player. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if every team I think every team's different. I mean, we saw Nate Robinson win 4th Man of the Year and he's a co-captain. But I think if you're a team trying to win a championship and your plan is exactly what you just said, I don't know if that's a captain's slot,
Well, I mean, prime example is Brian Scalabrine.
Well, right. And how successful have ball hogs been?
Well, yeah, they haven't. And I've actually been against what they've been doing for a while anyways. I think I've talked about that on one of the first episodes of The Fourth Man. But yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Because if it's a guy that you're utilizing situationally, I mean, do you want to make him necessarily a co-captain, or is that someone you draft on the back end in the 3rd round and hope that he falls to you just based on?
I mean, I think he's a first-round talent. I think he's somebody that you could take in the 1st round because exactly what you just said. I think for the defense and the intelligence. But like, I think of like these notable names who have been taken in the Big 3 draft, right? Like Mario Chalmers, Glenn Davis, Chris Anderson, Birdman. None of them were ever All-Stars.
Jason Richardson. I don't know if he was an All-Star.
I don't know if he was that. See, that is the era of the NBA. Well, I'll be honest with you, Jason Richardson era, that early 2000s is the one where I don't know. I could be missing an All-Star from him.
I mean, Jason Richardson was a beast. I was surprised he went 2nd round.
I know he won a dunk contest, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that. I don't know if he was ever an All-Star per se.
Let's fact check it.
Well, this Kyle Korver conversation has absolutely gotten interesting. But another guy that I wanted to talk about too is which someone who will have my respect for as long as I live, which is Jarrett Jack.
Yeah, I knew you were going there. I know you're a big
Jarrett
Jared Jack
Jack.
guy.
I have nothing but respect for Jarrett Jack. You know, I remember he came in on a Nets team that had high expectations, and then D. Will, I believe it was D. Will at the time, gets hurt. Beginning of the season, boom, we don't have a point guard. And Jarrett Jack was our starting point guard, and he held it down for us. You know, and I remember, and so I just remember being like, listen, like I had no idea well, I didn't have any idea, but I did not think Jarrett Jack was a starting point guard in this league, and he proved me wrong. And for a lot of the stuff we said about Korver, the intelligence, but he was also an excellent distributor. He was an excellent leader. So he would be someone that I would be extremely happy to have in the Big Three.
Yeah, and here's the Big Three tie. Well, almost Big Three tie. You know, Jared Jack was supposed to play on the overseas elite team that had
That's
Frank
right.
Nitti, Xavier Silas, Joe Johnson. I don't know why it didn't pan out, but there's got to be some kind of, at least some connection.
Yes,
Maybe just know the guy. So who knows? Maybe that's a guy that. Oh, here's an interesting speculation right here. Maybe it's a guy that, like, okay, you got Joe Johnson coming back. You got why is one of the co-captains' names slipping my head? Al Jefferson coming back, but let's say like
Gennaro Pargo.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, let's say Pargo doesn't come back because
sure,
coaching has taken a new level, or you know, that's just where he wants to focus.
Or the season overlaps, you know,
sure.
He's got to be there on the Trailblazers. Yeah.
What if Joe Johnson's like, okay, all right, now I got to look at some different guys. Like, oh, Jared Jack, that'd be an interesting co-captain name.
Yeah.
Add to your triplet squad. I mean,
absolutely.
That's someone who could fill Pargo's shoes pretty well. So
no, 100%. In triplets, that's probably the one position that they really don't really have is really that like true point guard. You know, like that floor general, which we haven't seen a ton in the Big Three, to be fair. Especially out of the successful teams, we haven't really seen those true ones.
True.
But no, I listen. Jarrett Jack, you know, will forever hold a special place in my heart.
One more guy I want to touch on, and guess let's put it like this: when is the Jimmer hype gonna die down?
Ooh.
I mean, not just like for Big Three, you know, purposes, but just in general. I mean, how long has Jimmer been out of BYU? How long has it been since Jimmer went first round and didn't succeed in the NBA like he was supposed to?
There's two levels to this.
Okay.
There's the Jimmer BYU hype, and then there's the Jimmer China hype. The BYU hype is gone. For him as an NBA prospect, we get it. But the stuff that he was doing for the Shanghai Sharks in China, that's what everyone's excited about. They called him the Lonely Ninja.
Okay.
Because his family wasn't living there. He didn't know the language, didn't talk to anybody, didn't speak to anybody, just went out alone on nights to the markets and got food, kept to himself. And then he'd show up to games and drop 60.
I mean, he's a legend in China for sure. I mean, if you love the CBA, you know, you're a resident of China, of course, that makes sense. But I mean, we saw the Shanghai Sharks maybe a couple years ago play the Houston Rockets. Did all right. Does it warrant a lot of hype like he always gets? I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a
Phoenix, and he was decent on Phoenix.
He was decent on Phoenix. I don't even remember one play from him on Phoenix.
I don't remember either. I'm just trying to control the narrative.
Oh, fair enough. That I don't know. I think the Jimmer people who still get excited about Jimmer Fredette for any reason, I think it's a little overhyped.
You're a hater. You're a hater.
I might be, but
you're a hater. This is your enemies.
Okay.
You're a hater.
Fair enough. That being said, if Jimmer comes to the league, they will be my enemies.
I'm gonna be hype as hell.
Fair. Be hype. I won't be anything until I see it.
Jimmer is such. I look at Jimmer. I look at a ball hog. The team.
Like being on ball hogs.
Ball hogs, yeah. I look at that. I look at who else would he be on? I don't know. Ball
I
hogs, I
look at
think,
him as
would
like
be
a
one.
ghost baller.
Oh, I almost said ghost ballers. Yeah.
I don't know why. I feel like he fits that bill a little bit.
Oh yeah. No, Ricky, Mike, and Jimmer. That'd be one hell of a trio.
What a squad there. I'm trying to think if there's I don't think he really fits anywhere else. I mean, he's the lonely ninja. Would he fit like on an aliens team? How the
Ooh,
aliens are kind of the enigmas.
yeah, I kind of like that.
Okay.
What about Bivouac?
I thought
Bivouac has their
about
guys.
Bivouac
Bivouac
too.
has their
I think
guys.
Bivouac's
Yeah.
pretty set,
Yeah.
especially if Most
Bivouac
Fates
has
does
their guys.
continue or plan
Yes.
on still playing.
Mhm.
I'll say this: Jimmer would definitely attract some people, and I think that would obviously be great for the Big Three. And I think that's why the Big Three would be excited to have him. And you would put him up there as maybe a 4-point champ there because of his.
I agree.
What we know about him being a long range shooter.
Yeah.
I just wonder, in an even like tougher league, more physical league. I mean, that was a big thing about Jimmer, right? Is that he couldn't hold his own really in the NBA.
Jimmer could do whatever the hell he wants to do.
Oh my gosh.
But we say that, right? And I feel like we're getting a little first take here. But we say that. But Jimmer also did phenomenal in the TBT. And that's where we saw Joe Johnson and all these other guys, So if I'm going to give Joe Johnson credit for doing what he did in the TBT, I got to give that same credit to Jimmer.
Man, that's an excellent argument. And
I have to.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, if we're going to say, oh, Joe Johnson was great in the TBT, he needs to go to the NBA, then yeah, I mean, it can't be like, oh, well, Jimmer just played the TBT and he did good against what competition, I mean, I guess my only argument would be like, the TBT last year compared to Jimmer playing in the TBT, 2 or 3 years ago or whenever, the competition level was probably at a little bit lower rate, but I don't know if that's enough to really.
I don't know if you can say it. This isn't the TBT where Dave Portnoy and Big Cat were going into the finals. It wasn't that TBT.
By the way, that's still ridiculous. That's still
crazy that happened. I didn't know that happened until like a month ago, and I was like, wait, what?
I learned about that literally in 2022, and I was like, man, that really happened? I go back, and they're like, in their jerseys, they're playing, and they're giving press conferences. So.
Oh, my God. And then I guess let's just touch on this. Marvin Williams, we think that's Marvin Williams. Maybe. I mean, sure, why not? And Barbosa, no way in hell.
No, but Barbosa's not happening.
No, Barbosa.
I just don't see it. And I don't think Marvin Williams is either. I know he just and kind of for the same reason I don't know if Noah would. I think those guys, they're in their mid-30s. They just retired. They could still play for an NBA team, and they're like, maybe I'd rather do something else. But I think too, like we always say, playing once a week definitely makes a difference than playing 72, 82 games a year and traveling and everything. So maybe that changes their mind.
Noah, you have Boozer and Nate.
Yeah. When are we going to see Boozer and Nate on the same team, though?
I know. That's coming. If Boozer is like a free agent because Power doesn't retain, I guess he's still technically on Power, but
they won't be able to retain him because they didn't win. But
right. So I feel like Boozer will just be picked up by Tri-State, probably for Jermaine O'Neal.
Oh, I would like that actually.
Yeah.
Or they just Big 3 expands in 2022 and they just come out with Team Hold That.
Yeah, I mean that's basically where we're heading. It's gonna end up being, starting lineup of Derrick Rose, Joakim Noah, Carlos Boozer, and then Tom Thibodeau coaching. It's just gonna be the Bulls.
Yeah, Derrick Rose in like 4 years when he finally decides to retire. It'll be Nate and Boozer. They'll be in their mid-40s by then. But we're like, oh, let's just keep it going. We got to get D Rose here, and then we'll be good.
And Thibs is like. And Thibs is now an incredible coach because you can't play someone too much. You can't give somebody too many minutes because there's no minutes.
He's like, you're not getting out. It's like, Coach, you think we can play? No, not a chance. Oh, that's good. Well, speaking of comedic and also talking about Portney and the guys over at Barstool, satirical type of content, we have a great interview on the back end with one of the co-founders of Real NBA Quotes, Mason. He runs, I guess the main one to run the Real NBA Quotes Instagram page. If you guys aren't familiar with that, they do a lot of satirical comedic work just based on kind of the big trending topics within that day and age. got a
They're
big,
hilarious.
yeah, they're
Yeah.
hilarious. They got a big Instagram page. Players love it. Obviously, the NBA community loves it, and kind of just take a deeper dive on what real NBA quotes, how it started, and what they are really trying to do here. So
Very funny interview.
absolutely,
If you haven't checked out their account, please do. It's so funny. Like I say in the interview, I don't know if there's an account that consistently gets me to laugh as much as them.
yes,
So yeah,
100%. I would say check that out first, and that like pause
for
right
sure.
now. Check out
Well, not if you're
real.nba.court.
on Dash, you can't pause.
If you're on Dash, we apologize. I would just say go to it as quickly as you can before before the flip of the switch here. But
I'm stalling. I'm giving you guys time.
exactly. That being said, let's get to our interview with Mason from Real NBA Quotes. All right, today we're excited to have on one of the co-founders of the popular Instagram account Real NBA Quotes. Mason, we appreciate you coming on the show, man. How's everything going for you?
It's good. How about you? Thank you.
Doing well, doing well. Excited to bring you on here. Talk a little bit about your account and kind of how it all came together. Let's start there. Actually, you're one of the few co-founders. You've obviously gained a huge following through Real NBA Quotes, and I think to my knowledge, it looks like you've expanded a little bit to more accounts and kind of expanded your coverage a little bit. But how did the inception of Real NBA Quotes come about?
All right. So it actually goes back pretty far to May 2019, where my first page was a page called Your NBA Opinions, where people would DM us opinions and we'd post them. And we could give our thoughts and other people could give their thoughts on the basketball opinions, is what they would be. And me and I met a buddy through that page named NBA District. His name's Carter. That's who I founded Real NBA Quotes with. And we had been friends outside of the page, like playing video games and whatnot together. And we were like, we had this funny idea and we were like, you know what, let's just give it a shot. And I remember it took us like forever. It took us like 3 or 4 days to find the name of the page because everything was taken or banned by Instagram. And then once we got it, we kind of ran with it.
Nice. So it sounds like you two came together. And is that something that you've kind of realized that's happened over time? I mean, the NBA community, or you kind of collaborate with other pages. Has that I guess tree of people kind of expanded as you've grown and grown?
Oh, well, I would definitely say it's like expanded big time. I remember our little OG circle of like me, Carter, NBA In Depth, Bucket Center. I'm sure you've heard of those pages as well. And now the NBA community is full of a bunch of big pages with hundreds of thousands of followers and millions across multiple pages.
That's
No,
crazy.
yeah, I mean the community, especially on Instagram, I feel like NBA Twitter gets a lot of love. I feel like from the media, but NBA Instagram is just as big, and it's definitely booming right now. But the idea for basically, for those who aren't familiar with your page, it's basically just these play on like these Bleacher Report and like ESPN posts, but it's just like these crazy quotes that as like attributed to these NBA players, and it's just hysterical to read, like especially if you know the context of everything that is going on behind the scenes. Where did that idea come from? Is it and sort of inspired by the Bleacher Report of the ESPN, or where did that come from?
Well, with the satirical and comedic like jokes and quotes we make, everyone always thinks, "Oh, you guys are making fun of the players and all that." And while we're definitely toying with the players and like poking at something that they're commonly joked about with and whatnot, it's definitely more to make fun of the media because some of the ridiculous questions and interviews that get asked, and you're just like, "There's no way this actually happened." So then we thought, well, with that going on and how ridiculous the media really is, we can make a play out of this and we can make it funnier on purpose when they don't even realize what they're doing. So
Have you
while we're always getting heat for making fun of the players, we're actually making fun of these big news outlets that are just flat out ridiculous.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, remember when I first found your page, I feel like I had the first reaction everyone has. I'm like, there's no way that like, Harden or LeBron actually said this, right? And then you go through the page like, all right, like it's a joke. Um, but basically, let me ask you this: has there ever been a quote or anything that the media has taken, and ran with, or maybe something that you came up with, and then you see in like a newspaper on like a blog site or whatever, and you're like, oh my god, these guys don't realize it's a joke.
Not necessarily on like that I've experienced on the newspaper or on ESPN or anything as big as that, but multiple times, real big trusted basketball outlets will repost something. Like I don't remember the exact quote, but at Basketball Forever, they have like over 700,000, I think, real professional, nothing but real stuff. Made their own format of one of our quotes and tried to pose it as real, and then like got clowned instantly because everyone totally picked up on it that it was us, and deleted the post like 3 or 4 hours later. That was pretty funny when that happened.
That's funny. That's hilarious.
On the flip end of that, are there any players that you maybe messed with or toyed with and actually appreciated like the satirical aspect of your page?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like the number one has got to be Frank Kaminsky. I remember he
Nice.
didn't even have 100,000 followers, and he had followed me, and we DM'd him. We were like, "Yo, what the heck? That's awesome." Uh, and he basically said, "I love your page. Your humor is hilarious. I love what you guys do." And now we've kind of formed a friendship, like to where we text every so often, and I ask him stuff about the NBA and whatnot, and like it's expanded me to become friends with some of his friends on Instagram. And then there's a lot of players that we don't have that connection to, but definitely appreciate it. Like John Morant has laughed at one of our posts, putting like laughing emojis in the comments and saying, "Y'all stay lying on me" or something like that, with a bunch of laughing emojis. And then one time we did one on Donovan Mitchell, and Kyle Kuzma tagged Donovan Mitchell in the comments with a bunch of laughing emojis. And then just like, I won't say they always appreciate it, but I can tell that it definitely gets noticed because we've had tons of player interactions, and 99% of the time they are not negative at all. The players are cool about it.
That's dope. I'm glad that players in the league also have a sense of humor with this because I'm sure they kind of have a similar stance that you guys do, in the sense of how you portray the media. And kind of in a weird way, I mean, with Kaminsky and everything, you said you text back and forth, or in an ironic way, you have your inside sources, which makes you like part of that media, you know?
Yeah, I really do. Like, he has told me stuff before that like has happened before it happened. Like I remember we found out he was signing with the Suns a day or two before he signed, before everyone else knew, and we
That's
knew
it.
about it.
That's so cool. That's awesome. And the funny thing is, like, if you, let's say, were to make a graphic and post that on Real NBA Quotes, I don't know if anyone would, they'd be like, oh, okay, like, this isn't really that funny, but okay, and then 2 days later, you actually signed. That's pretty funny. You talk about all these players that you interact with when you're going through, and one of my favorite things about your page is, like, these sort of recurring characters that you have. Like Tiny J.R. Smith is one of them, or like, what was the one?
My
Anthony?
favorite's Nikola Jokic or
Is there a favorite that you have? Is there a favorite player or maybe like a favorite team that you love to just like, create these quotes for, create posts about?
I mean, to be honest, it depends on like when something's going down or something happens, it's definitely fun to go after a player. Like right now, the player is James Harden. It's hilarious with the 4PF little baby stuff of him going to the clubs and all that and skipping playing basketball. But overall, there's definitely some favorites. Like it's definitely fun to rag on Devin Booker with Curious George. And what makes it fun is just not even us doing it or making it fun. It's funny how the community reacts to it and appreciates the inside joke so much.
I'm glad you brought up Curious George because I was going to ask you about that. Can you go into that? Like, where did Curious George come from?
Okay, so there's a really not I'm not gonna say really old because it's only like right now it's probably about 6 month old post. And I don't really remember how it starts, but uh Paul George mentions something about rest, and then Kawhi Leonard chimes in, and Paul George goes, "Of course you're curious about rest." And then Curious George chimes in, says to keep his name out of his mouth or something like that. And then that's where Devin Booker chimes in, and Curious George tells him to shut up. And that's where it all started, just because of me and my friend's sense of stupidity and laughing at the dumbest
That's pretty
crap.
good. That's pretty
That's
good.
so funny. I mean, that is my sense of humor to a T. I mean, even just listening to you describe it, like, it's so funny. Oh my God, that's great.
You hinted at it a little bit, just with you guys kind of comedically making fun of things the media does, and I think a lot of people do that now. What's kind of your stance, though, on the media, especially like within the NBA side?
I would say they're more of a positive than a negative most of the time. But I mean, I kid you not, I spend hours probably a day just texting some of my Instagram friends, like the League Source, I'm sure you've heard of,
Mhm.
and then Carter, who's on the page with me, and just countless other people, literally just making fun of all the crap that the media is going on and on about and reporting. Like I had a half an hour conversation about how every player in a commercial is considered a star, which is obviously out of respect, but it's kind of funny, and like you can nitpick every little thing about the media. So I will say that we appreciate them most of the time. It's definitely they definitely have some questionable things they do pretty often, and that I
Definitely.
can just rag on forever about.
No, you're definitely right. I mean, hey, when there's a whole YouTube montage of just like horrible questions asked at media days or press conferences, yeah, I mean, like they kind of put themselves in their own. Uh, they kind of gave themselves their own perception of how everyone does perceive them.
Oh yeah, they do it to themselves 100%.
Yeah, exactly. So with the page and everything, you're one of the co-founders. You've mentioned Carter. Don't know if there's other guys within your space that do different things for you guys, or you delegate tasks or whatever. But how does the structure of Real NBA Quotes work? I mean, you guys have now expanded. You guys have multiple other pages. It looks like. But so how does all that work running like a big media page that's blown up like this?
All right, so to kind of dive into it simply, me and Carter are the only ones on real.nba.quotes, the big page. And we basically take turns posting. Like I do a post, he does a post. And it depends on the time of the year, how much we're posting. Like in the heart of the NBA season, when there's enough content, we like to post twice a day. And then like right now, preseason, we try to post once a day. And then off season, we usually post about once every other day just because we like to post a lot, but I mean, when there's no content, the humor just feels forced and it becomes unfunny and unenjoyable. So we don't do that to ourselves or to our community. But then, yeah, we do have other pages. Like we have a smaller page called real.nba.cov, which is just like basic news coverage. And that page is actually me and another friend named Damon, who I also met through Instagram. And it's us three that kind of compile the R&Q universe. Like we have a group chat called R&Q, and we when we need a post, we'll text them there R&Q ideas question mark, or if we have half a post done, we'll send it in there, and we all just help each other out, and that's really what keeps the page fresh because one person would not be able to constantly come up with 10 or so slides a day of like comedy, and it would or else it wouldn't be fresh at all. It becomes so overused.
What is, and I'm glad, and it's cool you have a team working on this, right? Absolutely, like what you said, the more people in it, the better. And it seems like you guys are really dedicated towards this thing. And I think this thing is going to continue to grow. Like I said, I can't tell already, I'm a big fan of this page. But what does the future of this page look like? So you said you sort of are now diving into actual legitimate coverage. Is this sort of
Mhm.
now, at least for you guys, is this going to become like a media platform, like the next like Ball is Life or Overtime or like Bleacher Report or something like that? Or are you guys just going to stick to the more satirical comedy stuff?
Definitely need to stick to the satire and jokes because we've tried multiple times to create like serious pages and it never really works out to us. Like we can't dedicate ourselves to that like we can this because when you dive into something like that, you have to enjoy it more than anything. And we really enjoy this page, but when we try to dive into the more serious stuff, we just don't last quite as long. It's just not as enjoyable for us. So I would say the next step would be we would love to have some sort of like YouTube channel where we can do something on there to make it a video platform of like maybe a video a week and related to satire NBA. But satire NBA is definitely where our heart is.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at you guys, I feel like, I mean, this is a lot, but like, I don't know, are you like a soccer guy at all?
No, I'm not really a soccer guy at
So
all.
there,
I only mainly watch the NBA consistently, and
mhm,
then I do watch the NFL, but pretty much just the Cleveland Browns because I'm a Cleveland fan.
I respect that. I'm sorry about what happened the other night.
Ouch.
Man, I was bitter. I was bitter.
Every right to
But
be.
when I think of your page and when I think of maybe something that reminds me of your page is this soccer YouTube channel that's called 44 Tunes, which is sort of very similar to like what you guys do. Like it's sort of taking these athletes and putting them in like ridiculous situations and like making jokes about it. And it's sort of like daily or like weekly cartoons that this guy puts out. So I feel like for you guys, sort of like very similar to like a Gridiron Heights or like Game of Zones, you know what I mean? But just like off the walls, like crazy, ridiculous, like what you guys do. So I feel like, I don't know if any of you guys are into animation or anything, but I feel like that would be really the long term thing with here, just to sort of create this like cartoon.
Oh, believe us, the Game of Zones is the next step we want to take.
Yeah.
The problem is, none of us can animate, and animation is the opposite of cheap.
Yeah.
So looking into crap like that, it's just hard to get a dedicated team. But we are confident that we could like write out a storyline of like 5 minutes long animations and just have goofy little clips and like a little bit of a story, and it'd be a little more on like the PG-13R side, so it'd have that aspect to it because Gridiron Heights and Game of Zones are super family friendly E-rated.
Mhm.
We kind of have a more mature, goofy, just like our page, but the problem is we just need the resources for that.
I feel you.
Yeah, and I'm sure that comes with as you guys continue to grow and grow. Though I'm sure just like you've met other people through social networks. I mean, that's just the next step. Who's that going to be that person to be your guy and everything like that. Going into the season, the season's really right around the corner here. Crazy to think that. Who are some of the guys that you're looking at as I don't want to say like targets, but I want to say potential guys that you're going to be watching their press conferences pretty closely. I mean, Harden
Potential
obviously won.
storylines.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say Harden's obviously the main storyline right now, and that one really hurts to say. I'm a big Harden guy. If
Okay. I
however, that
wouldn't say
being
we
said, definitely deserves the criticism there. But anyways, yeah, who would be those guys?
I won't say that we really have any targets because I genuinely love every player in the NBA. And like the NBA is my passion. It's my favorite thing ever. So I can't necessarily just bully players. Like I love every player. I do have a little something I'm not letting go of Kelly Olynyk for breaking Kevin Love's arm in 2015. But other than that, I love every NBA player. So while we don't have anything we necessarily look out for, we do have like consistent running gags and like things that we know are cues that this will be good in the post because we know people enjoy that. And like off the top of my head, I can't really think of anything, but like a lot of times Harden will have the most outrageous pictures taken of him, and that's always a good one. Like the one you guys have all seen where he looks like he's put on a little weight,
Oh
and
my
then
God.
everyone saw the one
A
last
little.
season where his everyone saw the one last season where his he had a little bit of an accident in his pants, if you know what I mean. And so, we look out for things like that. But no, I wouldn't say we have any targets exactly. It just kind of, we're not going to make daily posts about the Atlanta Hawks and the Cleveland Cavaliers. It is always like the big media guys because that's who gets attention online. And that's just how that works.
For sure.
You said you're a Browns fan. Are you also a Cavs fan?
Browns, Cavs, well, Indians for not long, whatever they're
Right.
going to change their name
Cleveland baseball team.
to. Cleveland baseball team.
What do you think? Let's talk like sort of serious basketball for a second. What do you think about the Cavs? What's your outlook, heading into the season? It's sort of a rebuilding time for them. What are you thinking?
I'm hyped to see Okoro play. He looked amazing in his first two preseason games. And then I'm hoping we get to see Kevin Porter Jr. on the court because he's my favorite player right now. But I'm not sure if you guys heard about the gun charges he had. So we don't know the future of him right now. But I mean, I'm definitely looking forward to them too. And obviously our young guards and Sexton and Garland. Sexton's a big fan favorite here playing at Alabama. And I live in Alabama now. So it's always fun to see them. But I do wish that the Cavs would move on and like trade away the players like Andre Drummond and Kevin Love, who I know don't have much of a market, but like we need to commit to a full 1,000% rebuild and let our young guys play all the minutes.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the Cavs are doing some good things. It's just like you said, I feel the people that are stopping them are guys like Drummond and Kevin Love. Will, I don't know if I've ever told you this. This is kind of just a little side story, but did you know that I've actually seen and covered Darius Garland and James Wiseman at the high school level?
I didn't know that. No.
Very random.
That is random.
I was writing, like covering high school sports, and when I was they came to Chattanooga where I was going to school at the time. But when they came through, I just remember watching both those guys and be like, oh, those guys are really good. Like, they're definitely going to play at a collegiate level, but just to see them both go top 5 is pretty insane. I just thought it was a short story I would share as you talk about Darius Garland there, because he's one of the guys I like watch more intently now for that reason. I'm like, oh man, I've been following this guy for a little
that's
while.
Awesome.
Yeah,
as far as high school players go, have you guys ever heard of JD Davidson?
J.D. Davis.
Sounds familiar. Yeah, I think I actually saw him recently.
He's ranked like 8th or 9th overall. He plays in a really small school in Alabama. He's committed to University of Alabama. I've seen him play a couple times before. Seen him hit a game winner to win state.
Man.
So yeah, it's pretty awesome. Like watching these guys play high school, and then you get to go on and watch them play in the NBA.
It's so obvious, though. Yeah. It's so obvious at the high school level. I mean, like you just know guys that really stand out. Like,
oh yeah, they're like so good. It's unbelievable. It blows your mind.
I feel like, see, that's the part where I'm not lucky from, right? So like I'm on Long Island, and they're really like Tobias Harris is the big one. Danny Green as well, but there aren't a ton of guys from here. Like we're big lacrosse, big wrestling, but like I remember when Tobias Harris was coming out of high school when I was in like middle school, and that was like a huge deal. Like everyone thought Tobias Harris was going to be like, oh my God, this kid's like LeBron James. You know what I mean? And he's Tobias Harris, but he's Tobias Harris, and that was like, and that was the big thing. So I guess let me ask this. So Anthony, well, I guess Anthony too can ask this. So what are your thoughts on? So we are a Big 3 podcast, right? I don't know if you're familiar with the Big 3. I don't know if you're familiar with the guys in the Big 3. I guess are you familiar? I guess let's ask that question with the Big 3.
I wouldn't say I'm familiar with the Big 3. Like I love watching the former NBA guys play in the Big 3, and I've sat down and I've watched games before, but I can't like dive in and tell you every little thing about the Big 3 like I can the NBA.
Absolutely respectable. Who are some of the guys you like enjoying, or they like watching?
To be honest, this will show my knowledge. I'm not sure if he's still in there, but Joe Johnson was awesome to see for a little bit.
Yeah.
For sure.
I remember one game when he went just like absolutely off. I watched his highlights probably 5 times.
Yeah, he was really fun to watch. I think he kind of is a big reason why the Big 3 is even in like some part of people's minds here, just because of the ridiculous summer he had last summer. That being said, if the Big 3 got big enough, would you ever make something like a real Big 3 quotes? Because there are some pretty goofy guys in there that I think you could get some good content out of there. Big Baby Davis, just to name one is the first guy I think of. But does that ever cross your mind?
And there's a market for something. We're definitely up to try it, And we've done a Big 3 quote before when Nate Robinson was playing. But we don't have obviously like a separate page dedicated towards it. But if it one day got like G League level big, I can't say we wouldn't do it because there's always a chance for it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's definitely at least a couple times a season. There's definitely like some crazy stuff that happens in the Big 3 that like Glenn Davis stripping his pants off when he gets ejected, or like what was the other one, or like Brian Scalabrine threatening to kill Michael Rappaport on live television. Like just stuff that like if you didn't see it or if I just told you that it happened, you'd be like, there's no way that happened at a professional sports game. No, and I think your platform would be like a good, I feel like the Big 3 is a lot more goofier than the NBA in terms of that, because it gives players a pretty good platform to like show their personalities and let their personalities shine. So I think that, in the future, down the road, I think you would get a lot of pretty good content from it.
Oh yeah. A comment about the Big 3 is like, while it is a profession and a job, it's also extremely like goofy and almost like a reality TV show. Like they can just be who they are. So the market's definitely there. I see what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think more than anything, players would make that league. And Will has been at the personally experienced, some pretty funny things happening in a press conference setting. When you had Kenyon Martin go on a tirade there. I know that we've mentioned that on the podcast before, but like you said, if the market's there, it definitely would be cool to do. So as you continue to kind of go through the NBA season and through kind of a different year than they're used to experience, what's kind of the play to I guess like I don't want to say garner attention, but continue to grow, because there comes a point where you've kind of got some similar content in there, but then like, do you guys like plan on adding like these different characters that Will was mentioned earlier, or how do you guys plan to like attack this season, I guess I should say?
Well, as far as something like a page like that goes, if it's healthy, it grows. So a stagnant page isn't a good page. So it'll definitely grow and change and evolve. And we don't necessarily have a plan because it's always best when it just comes naturally. like these inside jokes we've made, we didn't plan any of them to be an inside joke. We threw it into a post once, saw people liked it, and then included it multiple times. And like there's many times where you'll see a random person or a joke or a player and you're like, what the heck? And it never shows up again because it simply didn't do well. Or even players or jokes that have been in it multiple times, but they're not in it anymore because, well, the jokes kind of became stagnant and died off. So yeah, you'll see a lot of change and evolution throughout the season, but I don't necessarily have any plans for it.
Gotcha. No, I didn't know if maybe you would add some different characters. Got to get Nikola Jokic to recognize the Thicklin name. I think you'd appreciate that. He seems like a goofy dude.
One of the funniest things that relates to Nikola Jokic that like we've had on this podcast is Anthony realizing that he's like a couple months older than Nikola Jokic. And like
That's
that
crazy.
was just like we were like, oh my god, like Nikola Jokic is like 30. Like, what do you mean?
Stacking up the one-on-one of our careers and realizing how much of a failure I'm actually at 26.
Yeah, I totally get that because I'm 18 years old now. I'm starting to be the same age as these draftees, and I'm like, man, that's crazy. So I bet seeing you were a little older than Nikola Jokic should have to be crazy for you.
It hits so different as you hit your mid-20s. I mean, like when you're 18 and 19, like you are, you're like, okay, these guys are the same age as me, like dope, you know. But then when you're like 26, you're like, damn, these dudes are pretty young and they're doing really well for themselves. Like I got to pick up the pace here before I hit 30. Make sure I'm on like
yeah, exactly.
some sort of level that they are.
Yeah, I feel like you always have a special connection like to your draft class. I feel like the quote unquote draft class that you would have been in. You know what I mean? And then when the first guy from that draft class is labeled like a bust, you're like, oh man, like how old am I? Like actually?
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to set my camera up right here a little bit better.
Yeah. Well, we do appreciate your time. We appreciate the insight on real NBA quotes, like we've been expressing throughout this. We really enjoy the page, and we're going to continue to follow. So we appreciate your time.
Oh yeah, 100%. This is fun talking to you guys.
Yes, sir. And hopefully one day we see those real Big 3 quotes. That means the league's doing well, and maybe we're doing a little bit better.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'll make sure to tune in some games and think of you guys this season.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, guys, we hope you enjoyed that interview with Mason from Real NBA Quotes. If you haven't checked out his stuff on Instagram, I highly recommend that you do. It's absolutely hysterical. It's absolutely, I mean, maybe I'm just speaking from experience. It's my sense of humor. I die laughing at almost every post that they have. So in the meantime, we'll be here waiting for the Big 3 announcement. We hope it's coming sooner rather than later. Anthony, I know you think it's going to be a Christmas announcement. I hope it's a little bit sooner than that, but we're sort of getting towards that time where we might have to be talking about a New Year's announcement. So other than that, we thank everybody. Yeah, we thank everybody for watching. If you're on YouTube, thank you for watching. If you're listening to this on Dash, thank you for listening. Spotify, Apple, Google, thank you guys for listening. Please subscribe. Please leave a review. Please like and 5 stars. Thank you guys so much. We will see you next episode.